Morning, mate.
Morning, Mass. How are you?
All good. All good. I always say this is always a bit awkward because we just chatted and then we have to do it all again. Um, Chris Bodman is here with me. I've got the privilege. A great man, somebody that I've spent some time with personally for my own work, which I was very grateful for. Still, am very grateful for. I watch on now as he does great work in our industry. Um, with people that I know and people that I've worked with in a different way, of course. And so we've probably got lots to chat about. I just said to Chris, I have no agenda as usual in this chat. I'm keen to just let this flow and let it be what it'll be. Um, but just to start off with you being outside of PFCA, outside of March on specifically, more involved with Gimona's network, can you just give us a quick sort of top line of what you're up to, who you are?
Yeah, no worries. Thanks, Mass. And again, good to be on. I guess very kind of top line. I was a strength and conditioning coach for 12 years, working primarily in cricket and in English domestic cricket. Um, at a time where I think I was the second full-time S&C within that sport, so it was a really good time to be involved in a sport that I didn't know a great deal about, to be honest. Didn't have any real experience in terms of playing a game other than some dodgy innings when I was at school, probably. Um, so yeah, that was cool. Again, really good. And I guess it was during that time that I just became fascinated by like human psychology. I was working with athletes face to face and coaches and a whole blend of different people. And um, as you know, and as all the coaches probably listening to this will know that you click with some and find it a bit more challenging with others, and that kind of led me down just wanting to explore psychology a little bit more. So I did a um, an undergrad degree in mainstream psychology, um, initially just to enhance my coaching from an S&C perspective. I then got really interested in it and thought, right, if I do want to stay in sport, then this might be something to pursue a little bit further. So then went on and did a master's in sports psychology, and then went on and did my chartership from there. So this was all kind of still working as a full-time S&C. And then having done all that qualification, thought actually I probably need to now go and do something with it. So yeah, so left the world of S&C, went into to performance psychology. Worked again was super fortunate to work with a number of really good organisations and a lot of very good people. So kind of stayed in sport for a while, and then yeah, I guess just didn't want to provide what I felt was really useful information just to those who were fortunate to be in environments that could access that.
Mm.
And so then set up my own kind of consultancy just to explore how we could share that more amongst the masses. And so where I find myself now is a bit of blend of both. I'm still working in sport a little, but again, like some great opportunities. So actually full circle, still working in cricket, but currently working with England women's cricket,
Okay.
um, which is great. Um, Doing a little bit of work with UK Sports Institute, their performance rehab unit, and then just do some other work with Gym Owners Network. I've got my own program and I'm doing some kind of corporate work as well. So
Busy.
yeah, pretty busy, but great. Again, I've always liked that a mix of work.
Mm.
So it lends itself to me. Like the fact to going in and doing the same thing like every day in the same place. I think I kind of did that like years and years ago, and came to the conclusion very early on that that wasn't for me. And so I like the difference. Just sometimes need to check in and remember where I'm going on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis. But no, yeah, yeah,
With
really
with
fun, really cool.
with that in mind, with the I guess the pull towards the variation and then the the self-awareness to know that you do need to keep yourself online and what have you. Are you naturally creative?
Um, I think I am. I don't think I give myself enough credit. Like I get ideas, and then it's kind of questioning a little bit. Again, I've got so much better now, but I think my approach is different, and it's just again just having like being true to yourself in terms of saying that approach is okay. And I
Mm,
think that's like the development that I've had in I mean, I'm talking probably the last 8 or 10 years now. So not a
mm.
recent discovery, but before it was always kind of like, okay, I might have that idea, but I think I should do it this way because that kind of feels the norm, or that feels to fit in a little bit more. And now I'm far more confident, as I say, to say like again, what is right? Yeah, like if I think that this is going to land or this resonates. And again, a lot of my work now probably comes out of what resonates with me. So if that's the way I understand it, then I think, okay, well, this might be useful for somebody else to understand it this way as well. Um, so yeah, I'd like to think I'm creative. I'm super fortunate again from a business perspective. I've got a co-founder who is a creative genius, and so when I compare myself to him, then no, I don't think I've got an ounce of creativity in me. But yeah, between us, we do a pretty good job of that. So yeah, I think I am. I think I am.
Yeah, there's a lot of interesting stuff in there in what you just said, and I think a lot of it will be particularly relatable to the new coach if they picked up on it. And I'll just repeat it if they didn't. You mentioned at the start around, and I'll I'll have to use my language because I can't remember exactly what you just said. But coming out of education, I guess there's a sense that you've got to toe the line, right? And there's a way to do certain things, and that's what that's what we try and discourage in the PFCA when we're coaching coaches. Whilst also understanding exactly what you just said, that the reality is that it's going to be experience and confidence that gets you to the point where you can actually go, okay, I can do this differently and I will survive. In fact, I won't just survive, I'll flourish, right? But there's a is it fair to say there's generally a delay between even being aware of that and then it becoming a reality?
Yeah, I think there's got to be a delay because, like I say, it's a developmental process, right?
Mm,
I think I was fortunate going into psychology that I went in slightly more mature in the sense that I've been working in an elite environment already, so I kind of understood the environment, and so then you're learning something to then potentially go back and apply in that environment, having worked in it, having known the environment, and so it was quite eye-opening when I was studying with other kind of neophyte practitioners that had come straight through academia
mm,
and had no exposure to those environments to say, okay, yeah, it does make sense, but that's not the real world. Like you go into any kind of in that context, like elite sport environment, and try and do what you've just explained, you're just going to get like laughed out the room. And
mm,
so I think that's the bit. I think the other bit that's this quite interesting, and again, just to put a bit of psychology into it, I think there are stages of identity, if you like.
mm,
And so that first stage I would describe as almost like that investigative journalist type thing. So when we come out of that, I could like again, we're trying to kind of form our own way whilst like probably observing and taking on a lot from other people. And in that instance, if I was to challenge you and say, okay, well, this is what you're saying, like, give me some rationale, you probably wouldn't be able to, right? You've not built up
mm,
your case enough, or you've not built up your philosophical approach enough to be able to say, okay, this is what I'm doing it for.
mm,
And so I think that's the first stage, which again I think is a natural stage. That transitions into more of an expert stage. Okay, so now I'm starting to establish my own principles, my own way of practice, probably being a bit of putting a bit of authenticity towards that and saying, now this is it. And again, if you challenge me on that, then I could give you some good counter challenge back. This is why. Yeah, and that's where a lot of people now then operate in, right? Again, if
mm,
I'm an
mm,
established coach, then again I'm an expert in what I do and I can like really serve well. What then tends to happen is then we go on to more of kind of a mentor type identity. So now I want to start to, and again, that might be one to one or one to many in terms of I want to now be able to distill my knowledge to others, right? Um, and that becomes a bit more of a kind of selfless approach, right?
mm,
Because now it's not all about me and making it about me. It's now trying to educate others as well.
mm,
And the fourth stage goes from mentor to role model. And role model can be whatever. Now I'm like a key person of influence within my realm, right? Which could be kind of global.
Mm,
right? I'm well renowned for whatever, an area of interest or a particular talent or skill or way of working. Um, and now my reach is like infinite. Yeah. And so again, I think it's the reason why I say it is I think it's really quite useful to understand where you are at any given time because it's not necessarily this kind of chronological go from one to two to three to four. At times, we might go from one to two to three and then have to come back to two or find ourselves in four, right? While still trying to deliver, i.e., be the expert. I do some work in kind of corporate environments, and I see this a lot. You kind of get people that come through and are very accomplished and established in what they're doing, and
mm,
then they're given. Then the next rung of the ladder is like a middle management role,
mm,
right? And so
yeah,
now all of a sudden, it's not just about me just doing this thing. It's like me trying to run a team, support a team, whilst potentially still trying to have to do this thing. And there's this conflict of like, oh, well, how much do I give and how much do I do and what have you. So yeah, I think it's fascinating. But it's great to
I,
hear again that and I again I know this, but just to repeat what you've said, like really encourage people to be themselves in terms of their pursuit of what they want to do, whilst understanding that there are some obviously some constraint in terms of like we can't go too rogue.
yeah,
We need to be able to still to deliver on what what we're saying we're skilled at doing, but
yeah,
just putting our own stamp on it. Yeah,
yeah, exactly, exactly. And what we talk to in well, thanks for explaining that. It's great. Um, what we talk to in that is we say learn more about yourself to make it all about them. Um, and so it's not necessarily coming up with anything new or jazzy, that looks fancy from the outside. It's just learning how to be more you
yeah,
with the essence of the coaching practice, similar to any person to person scenario, whether it's psych or healthcare or whatever, is the relationship.
yeah,
And so then, I guess movement along that continuum that you just explained is directly related to your ability to relate to the person in front of you, right? In our world, we use the competence continuum to explain that from unconscious incompetence to unconscious competence, right? Which is the role model piece. Um, or the language that we use in there is self, others, system, collective,
yeah,
um, and trying to explain that the self piece is not selfish. It's actually the foundation of everything else that comes on top of it, which is exactly what you just explained there. Um, Fascinating the developmental stuff, eh?
yeah. Let- If I can ask you then,
Mm.
how how well do you think people know themselves?
Yeah, not very,
Right.
not very. We just had I mean, I'll share my story a little. We just had a little catch up before we started. The work that I did with Chris was because it it was forced upon me to do some self work, right? Um, it was clearly long overdue, and I needed to sit with it. I wasn't in a good spot, and Chris helped me with that. Um, but even in that, from me, who I would consider has spent a lot of time thinking about my world and how I operate in it, and what I am in it and what I can be to others, and all the rest of it. Still, it became crystal clear that I've not even scratched the surface.
Yeah. And I'm exactly the same.
Mm,
Exactly the same. And again, like nobody has got this mastered, right? The development of self is infinite in my
mm,
view. Like if you want it to be, again, like do you know what I mean? If you want to do that, like you say, in your case, you chose to do that exploration.
mm,
But some people might just be, okay, well, that's okay, that's fine. I don't necessarily want to. So I think it has to start with awareness, right? And like I say, I think we can continue that awareness kind of discovery as long as we want to. Um, the more we understand that, again, even that transition from self to others, the more we understand ourselves, then the more chance we've got to understand other people as well, right?
Mm.
And so that relationship bit again can continually be enhanced. But yeah, I think there's this reluctance at times, and again, for whatever reason, there's this reluctance to want to explore. See it again with a lot of certainly in athletic populations. There's a resistance to say, actually, I want to find out more about this for fear of again, whatever. Do you know what I mean? If I uncover some stuff here, then potentially that's going to be more detrimental to being more impactful.
Yeah.
And so again, I think we got to be sensitive with that. We've got to understand that. But at your pace, at your cadence, I think there's this like I would absolutely encourage and champion like this self exploration. And again, it's become a little bit kind of like the self-help movement has just become a bit muddled, isn't it, in terms of
Yeah.
everything that's out there.
Cliched, eh?
Yeah, totally. And probably over-consumed.
Mm.
I guess it goes back again to what I'm trying to do in terms of like it's not about consumption now. It's not about giving more. It's actually about trying to take things away, trying to clear
Mm.
things up, trying to give a bit more clarity. So again, like not to share the conversation, but I didn't tell you anything that you didn't know.
No.
It was just making sense of what was there, right? And just understanding it and say, okay, well, if that looks a bit different, then what would that look like?
Mm.
And
Yeah.
and oftentimes, again, I make no apology to say that with people that I work with, and I'm not gonna, do you know what I mean? There's not going to be anything that probably you don't know already.
Yeah.
But what you do know is just not flowing quite in that way that would make it kind of more understandable.
We had just that conversation last night on the CPT call. We were coming towards the end of the course, and so we're starting to bring everything together in program design. So it's like what we call implementation. So the point I was making was that the the conclusions that we were coming to in the prescriptions that we were putting forward based on the avatar that we were talking around were very, very simple and very obvious. And I said, is a lot of this not just common sense? And heads nodded. I then went back to the point that you made earlier, in that I understand that conviction in this simplicity can only come with experience. And so the likelihood is that you will have to go down the roots and rabbit holes of complexity because you think that that's where the answers lie. But back to the Bruce Lee quote that we have in our book, when I first started, a kick was just a kick and a punch was just a punch. And then there's the middle bit. And then when at the end, he realizes again that it was just a punch and a kick. And I think that's the same, right? But the difference is now is that the way you see the world is different.
Yeah,
Um, and so yeah, so I guess that speaks to what I was explaining before in what we encourage, but then also knowing that there's a process for everybody on that call to go through until they see that as a reality.
yeah. And I
And
think
so the point, sorry, I didn't get around to my point. The point the point was that um, there is value in that.
yeah,
There is value in, and that's I think where the lack of confidence comes is that, hang on, this person's paying me 50, 60 quid for an hour of PT. I need to come up with something a little bit more fancy than this. It
yeah,
can't just be a split squat. And I can't just tell them to
yeah,
eat their lunch at the same time every day. Like that can't be it. But it probably is.
yeah. Totally, totally. And again, like we say, it's easy for us to say like to talk about this and up until relatively recently, again, I'd have done exactly the same. I'd have just tried to
Mm,
throw everything at it.
mm,
And like I say, with experience. And again, I don't know if it's a moment or not. I don't know. I can't really put it down to a moment. But again, there was probably a period of kind of self-reflection and self-discovery to say, actually, like who am I and what am I about now? And something that again I put a lot of towards is like understanding some kind of value. Again, it's become a little bit cliched, right? But
mm,
understanding some values, some ways of being that are going to direct my behavior, but not just to kind of use that as marketing or promotional material. To really hold yourself to account to that. Say if these things are important to me, then where's the evidence to that? And the one thing that I've got three or four, but the top one is to master the fundamentals. That's still important for me now.
mm,
Just like really understand and execute the basics like really well.
mm,
Yeah.
mm.
And I think if you can do that, then you can add whatever else you need to add, like put a sprinkle on it if you need to. But if you do those things really well and hold yourself to account to do those things really well, then more times than not you're going to deliver something that's really
Absolutely.
purposeful.
It's funny. If you, Liam Holmes speaks to world class basics, and we've borrowed that off him for our language because it's great. And I was explaining what I meant by the foundation and the basics really. And he said he was smiling whilst was talking about it, and he said, "Look at this." And he got out his it was his nutrition sort of book from that they used to give to the players at Celtic. He had world class basics, and he said, "Look, this is what we used to do at the top level." Do you think that exposure to the top level to see an experience that it is the basics that do the majority of the work. Do you think that helps that will help people, I guess, get clarity around it and believe it, trust it?
Yeah, I mean, I think being in that environment and seeing it is like again gives probably confirmation that probably is the right way. But I don't think you need to be in it to understand. I think we all know that anyway, don't we? I think
Yeah,
you look at anything and you just think if you're just doing the right things consistently well for periods of time in whatever realm, then you're probably going to do okay.
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah. Yeah, and we know it. I'm just back to the point you made earlier when you said, I'm not sure there was a point or I'm not sure how it actually happened. I'm just wondering if it happens faster if you've seen it in action with somebody that's top of the game.
yeah.
It's like, oh
Yeah,
shit.
yeah. I think that gives you the confidence to say, okay, yeah, that probably is the right way.
Mm,
I think the other bit though, Mass, I think you just got to be a little careful of. Again, I've been, like I say, super privileged to work with like what I would say are elite and super elite, like multiple Olympic medalists.
mm,
And again, going into those environments, like my expectation is that these people are so different and superhuman,
mm,
right? And then you sit down with them and you're just like even going back to your point in terms of isn't this just common sense? I've had conversations with them and it's just been like, and they're like, oh yeah, that makes sense. And you're just like, what? Like, surely you must be thinking that or doing that. And so I think there are some that really understand it and and have, do you know what I mean, refined it and optimized it and just like it is there. But I think for others, they've found a way. Don't necessarily know why or how, but they've found their way, combined with like a definite talent
mm.
in whatever kind of endeavor they're doing. Um, and again, they found their way and they just do it well. They just nail it. They just, do you know what I mean? So again, I think just dispelling that myth a little bit to say that even the greats like are no different to you and I or anybody in terms of like we've all got that ability too, but it's yeah, for whatever reason the stars have aligned for them and they've just like they've worked it out.
What was it about sport and that world that made you look beyond? Or was it not sport? Was it beyond that pulled you there?
I think sport was the trigger initially in the sense that I mean going way back then again I played a lot of sport as a growing up. So I was always interested in sport. And then I got into fitness. And so again, I was kind of let the two things aligned. And so I started working in just mainstream health and fitness and then got an opportunity, as I say, is it like within sport, which was like a dream. Like those two things together for me at that point was a dream. Um, I think then that transition to psychology, probably sport was the trigger because, and especially within that sport and cricket, like it was a relatively level playing. Like when you get to pro level, it's a relatively level playing field in terms of like technical, tactical ability. Physical ability to a degree. Again, there was differences in terms of what some of their strengths were, but physically they were all. very competent in terms of what they do.
Mm,
And yet performance was indifferent.
mm,
Performance was inconsistent. So I'm thinking, well, if there's not a lot of change between the technical, tactical, and physical stuff, then what can it be? And I still genuinely believe, again, like that was the difference. I think people that, and again, not necessarily by design, often just by chance or by default, that they'd found a way to be able to go out and then showcase their talent consistently. And I think that's
mm,
the bit of or the inconsistency was the catalyst for like, well, why is there that difference between player A and player B when there's a lot that looks the same? Yeah. And so that led me to, okay, if it's not those things, then what could it be? So could it be the kind of the mindset or the psychological perspective of it? Um, and to this day, I still think it is. I genuinely
yeah.
think that that's a major component that um, is still relatively new as a discipline. It's still relatively um, well, it's just got kind of mixed understandings in terms of application and desire and want. I think it's not necessarily been promoted very well historically. I think it's getting better, but it's still got some challenges. Um, and so I think there's a huge kind of scope there to explore even further and to make a difference.
It's interesting, isn't it? How I see it is that, we spoke to how the outside world has reached almost this cliched moment in self-development and the acceptance of everything that could be in this arena. Um, Whereas sports still clinging to the academia.
Yeah,
And have you got research for that? And have you done this qualification? And we need to know that if you do that, then this will happen, and so on and so forth. Whereas there's there's so much that's subjective in this scenario that it's almost difficult to do so. Do you think that plays a part in the acceptance of it?
yeah, you're poking me now. This is um, like I feel pretty passionately about this, and I try and temper it a little bit. Um, so that almost goes back to that bit that we spoke about before in terms of coming out of some kind of understanding or some learning phase, right, into to then the practical application of it. So I'm not dismissing the importance of academia, scientific rigor, of research, of all of those things, right? It's absolutely critical and crucial, but I don't think it's translated that well to the
Mm,
populations that it's going to make a difference towards. Okay, so like I say, I absolutely understand and accept the importance of it. But what's the purpose of it if then we're not doing anything with it? I guess what I try to do is to understand that for myself. Because again, I find academia like really challenging in the sense that like reading a research paper on something that it was within my field and within my area of expertise, I still find like, okay, well, again, what on earth is this talking about? What does this mean? And they and and almost like the concluding remark again, just generally speaking in a research paper, the conclusion is like the practical application, right? Okay, this is
mm,
how it could then be put into place. And so again, I don't think it's given enough um, kind of weighting towards if this is what we're finding, then what can we do with these findings? And so I think that was probably again like something that I wanted to do to say, right, if all of this is out there, then what do we want to do with it? But then how can we also like distill it into a language that is going to be understood by the populations we're trying to deliver it to? And and there's some really good like practitioners out there that can do that. Yeah, and I think that's growing as well. But absolutely, I think like the more we can kind of translate those scientific or research findings into practical application, then then the better it's going to be. And I think again, I mean, I might get into trouble for saying I think psychology's got a bit of a problem with that, to be honest.
mm,
I think psychology often overcomplicates something that's already like super complex.
mm.
And I wonder what the reason for that is.
Yeah. Do you think it's I don't want to. I'm genuinely not trying to poke you again. I'm interested in this as well because I'll look on. Do you think it's the pressures of business today in sport that force people's hand towards the objective? Like this will happen if this is in place, and so on and so forth.
I think it depends what the sport is.
Yeah, fair.
I think some sports are very outcome dependent, and so then become very reactive to that outcome, whether it be tick or cross or good or bad.
Mm,
Um, so I worked in rugby for a couple of years, um, and having come from cricket, which you might play 5 days over seven. There's not a great deal of time for reflection or introspection, and do you know what I mean? It's kind of on to the next thing, and
mm,
then you're going from this kind of multi-day kind of format sport to potentially one event a week sport where everything depends on that 80 minutes.
mm.
Um, I could walk into the training ground on a Monday morning, having not seen the result, and I could have told you within 30 seconds whether they'd won or lost.
Yeah, yeah.
That was a signal, like that. I mean, that's a telltale sign to say, right, that the outcome is absolutely critical. And again, I understand why,
Mm,
totally understand why. But then what would happen would that would then determine what the rest of that week then looked like.
mm.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And so again, you were getting inconsistent practice, inconsistent delivery based on whether we'd won or lost,
yeah,
which again, I don't think is useful for continued or sustainable success.
yeah,
It might
yeah,
be a good short-term fix, but it's not. Again, I don't think it's good for, as I say, for any continued kind of development. And so again, I think it depends what the sport is. Again, but similarly, I think just that I'm not again, I'm not kind of broad brushing academia with it. Like I say, there's some really good academics that are very much doing some like somebody I'd actually make reference to because I think is deserving. A guy called Mustafa Sarkar has done a lot of work on resilience, um, again from an academic perspective, but again very much like showcasing how this can be applied in terms of, and again, some really robust research but some really good practical suggestion and application as well. So that they're out there for sure. Again, I'm not, like I say, I'm not saying that's the case for everybody, but yeah, I think there is a certain pressure in terms of like, again, like what is the purpose of it and what's it contributing to?
yeah, yeah. Again, I'm just thinking who's listening to this, and whilst there'll obviously be direct interest in sport and what's happening and everything that you've just said, just to relate that back to coaching of
Yeah,
Gen Pop, General Athletic Pop, in normal gyms up and down the country. There's so much to take from that. Thinking about the sport and the reactive nature of that following week, right? So that following week then just becomes almost like an isolated week of in quote unquote progress. But it's a reactive response to try and fix what they feel is an immediate problem rather than zooming out and going, well, where are we going?
yeah,
And does this matter? Or
yeah,
how much does this matter? So let's weigh this now as far as what happened at weekend. First of all, is that actually fair in relation to where we are as a team or where we're up to in the overall process? So again, back to our clients, like, okay, your client didn't nail that particular movement, or you perhaps had a litmus test built in that you would like them to have moved on from last time, and they do it and it didn't work out. Now, do we roll up the plan and throw it away, or do we go, hang on, well, let's just reflect on the plan and find, well, they had a really stressful week the week before, so on and so forth. So actually, my expectations today are built off of a rigid approach here to my program design and my plan, as opposed to coaching the people that are in front of me.
yeah,
And so, again, back to the subjective, back to the relational part. If we can remove ourselves then from the data and the spreadsheets and the certainty and all the rest of it and get back to what our role actually is and coaching the people in front of us for the long term, then we can we can perhaps see the wood for the trees.
yeah. I think again, it's understanding what success is in that moment, and like is success curation of the perfect program, or is success the relationship I'm building with my client in terms of, like I say, seeing sustainable or continued development and progress. And
Yeah,
um, I think like whatever it is will determine your approach to that. Like I said, the input of the program is integral to the success, but similarly, it's the application. And I think the zooming out bit is a really good point you made, Mass, in terms of like we can get very much just in the weeds with it, can't we? And just see what's directly in front of us. And I guess again, from a professional practice perspective, psychology does kind of reflection and reflective practice like really well. And I think
mm,
again that could be kind of used in a lot of other realms like really well. So something that I would encourage coaches to do is just again just take a moment to pause and just say, okay, well, why might that have been? If that session didn't quite go as I was expecting it to, then why didn't it? And like you say, it might be down to the fact that, well, somebody's had a really stressful week the previous week, so kind of why would it?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah,
And based on that, do I want to do it? Do I just put it down as an anomaly and carry on, or do I just want to make some adjustment or whatever? And I think those micro adjustments are important as opposed to, like you say, okay, well, this is wrong, so I now need to scrap plan A and move on to plan B.
yeah.
And if we keep that approach, then before long, we're on plan. Do you know what I mean?
Absolutely,
Yeah,
absolutely.
yeah,
And then because I just think back to one of your visuals that you've created where you showed the line of progression and the zoomed out line that just went up, and then as you zoom in, there's all the ups and downs that go with it. Um, and if we react negatively to all those troughs
yeah.
that sit alongside the peaks, then the chances are that our efforts kind of dwindle away.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, really interesting. I
But we've
guess
got
it's
we've got to go through those troughs as well, though, haven't we?
exactly,
Yeah, yeah. I
exactly.
mean, like those troughs are important, and I think this is the bit again. Just there's this framing of success or failure, and again, just like if like I think we've defined failure like as okay, well, this can't happen. It's got to always be the tick and not the cross. And again, I think again, there's some really good applied research around failure. And if it's a relatively kind of simple failure, i.e., a negligence from my perspective, do you know what I mean? Like then that can be fixed pretty quickly. And that understanding to say, okay, well, I got that wrong, so I can self-correct that. Or there's something within the system that is preventing that from going right. So it might be a number of different things that, again, if I address those things, I'm fine. But I think we can also fail and learn from like these intelligent failures, as is coined, in terms of like, okay, well, if that hasn't gone to plan, then there's some learning from that, right? And if I apply that learning, then that's going to that's going to be really impactful. So again, I think in every population, I think we need to be more comfortable with understanding failure. Yeah, not necessarily more comfortable with failure, but understanding the nuance of failure. Um, and I think again, if we do that, then that would determine our approach to a lot of different things.
Yeah. Um, Ryan Holiday, The Obstacle is the Way, just springs straight to mind there.
Right.
Um, it's funny how this is happening, but again, we were speaking to it last night, how um, something going wrong or not in line with what you'd planned or programmed in a session isn't necessarily wrong. We have to then come back to the definition of success of that session. And if the definition of success with your continued session with your client is exploration and play in order to move them forward and develop their understanding of themselves within health and fitness, then, like you say, those failures are actually where they're going to learn the most.
Yeah, yeah,
And so we should embrace them. And I think what we get wrong in the fitness industry specifically, I'm not speaking to sport here, but I imagine it's similar. What we get wrong in the fitness industry is that we are negative around the failure as opposed we see it in a negative light. And the client sees it too, and all the language that we use around it. So you got that wrong, so now we're going to scale it,
yeah,
right? We're going to scale this for you. So that's almost saying you failed and now you're going to be reprimanded for that. Whereas we need to change our chat around it. It's like, so my bad. I got the challenge wrong for you. In fact, for now, now that we've done that, we can see now a little more clearly that this is a better challenge for you right now, right? And so then, whilst it sounds a little bit semantic, I think it's important in communicating the reality of that scenario as not a bad thing, but actually just part of the process.
I think next level to that is not even my bad. I got the challenge wrong. It might be actually that challenge was intentionally put there to highlight this.
Brilliant. Guided failure.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. And again,
yeah,
it like, being sensible with it, but it's like anything, like the exposure to something, again, just gives that enlightenment or understanding to say, okay, well, maybe I'm not where I need to be. And so what does that look like? If that
yeah,
comes from the client, if they're understanding of that, then their engagement to that is going to be far better than just going off a rote program and just saying, okay, I just need to follow, set some reps as is prescribed, right?
yeah, yeah, yeah. And so then hopefully with confidence and with experience as the coach moves along that continuum of competence or transcendence or whatever it is, their ability to define success gets better in that
Yeah,
they see that the success is in the relationship, in the communication, as opposed to, the programs that they've written over time. And you and I will know we can share our notebooks from,
yeah,
you know, a decade or so ago and hold our heads in shame as to what we wrote as a program, right? It's like fucking hell.
yeah,
Poor bastards back then, when we didn't know any better.
yeah,
But again, that was part of our process.
yeah. Totally. And again, at the time, it's like anything, right? At the time, then if that felt right, then it was right. Again, you got to go with it. And but but yeah, and I think again, like in all honesty, I think if we were to do that, then yeah, you probably pick it apart a bit. But the again, the fundamentals probably wouldn't be
No,
too different, right? Because again, it was established on robust principles that haven't changed for for a
yeah,
long time.
yeah,
Um, so yeah, this new thing might come in, or we might just go on a bit of a, let's say, a bit of a fancy crusade in terms of, okay, well, this is happening at the moment, so I'm going to employ some of that. But essentially, the nuts and bolts will be relatively sound, I think. Yeah.
yeah,
Can I
yeah.
we've spoken about confidence a fair bit.
Mm.
Again, can we just talk about what that means?
Of course.
Yeah. Because again, I wrote about this the other week. I think we've got it. Again, I think the general understanding is wrong. I think again, you can say semantics as you've mentioned before, but I think it's an important distinction. Um, that I think being confident is very different to expressing confidence, right? So one is more binary.
Mm.
So if I'm either confident or I'm not confident,
Mm.
right? If we use that language, whereas confidence is more of a dynamic construct,
Yeah,
right?
okay. So confident then being an ID,
Yeah,
confidence being a behavior.
absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And so again, we'll know that if we become too or if the identity then becomes too robust, right, then it can become quite limiting in terms of it's either there or it's not there, right?
Mm.
So with confidence, I think that a way of understanding it again, so using that language and purposefully using that language to say, okay, at any given time, I'm probably anywhere on that continuum. It might be that my confidence is populated around a part of that, right? But in situations, that confidence is going to be top end, right? So as an example, if I'm in a social gathering with people that I know really well, then again, my confidence to be able to converse and have opinion and challenge and whatever is probably going to be relatively high. Yeah.
Mm.
Whereas if I'm put in a room full of strangers, then does that confidence show up the same, or is that confidence then compromised?
Mm.
Because again, I've not established that relationship. And then to go a different way, if I'm talking about something that again I'm passionate about or whatever in that situation, then again confidence is going to be high, right?
Mm.
But then
Mm.
if I'm put on a stage and said, right now go chat in front of 500 people about this, again my confidence could be compromised. And so again, I think when we're talking about confidence, like we can determine where we want that to be if we're understanding where it derives from and where it comes from. So if I know situations where my confidence is at the higher end of that continuum, then when my confidence might be, or when I might be in a situation that might compromise my confidence, then what can I take on and what can I understand from the other situation to be able to employ at that moment in time, as opposed to just being like, well, I'm not confident, so I'm not going to do it.
Mm.
Yeah.
So how do you build it then?
By understanding where it comes from.
Okay.
First of all, we need to understand what our sources of confidence are. So where do we draw confidence from? And if I know where that is, then when I'm devoid of it, then I can access it potentially. Whereas if I don't
Mm.
know where I get confidence from in the first place, yeah,
Yeah.
who knows? So
And
again, I'm almost then doing the thing to see whether or not that gives me confidence or not. Now, as we know, that's not a very good way, a very good measure of necessarily doing it. We want to start from a place of, yeah, as opposed to take an action to see if that then gives us it.
back to the conversation we are just having then around failure.
Yeah,
Can we also say that it's not necessary to be confident or have confidence in all areas?
totally. Like who's the master of everything?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So again, I think it's understanding again, like where it goes back to again some kind of psychology around strengths or around uniqueness or around whatever. Again, goes back to that authenticity, which again I think has become a bit of a overused word, but let's just use it for now. Like who am I?
Mm.
Right? What is my USP? And if I really understand what that is and when that plays out at its best, then I can use that to my advantage and to my benefit.
Mm.
So it's not just well that's who I am, right? It's like that's who I am, and I'm employing it, yeah, like strategically. I'm
Mm.
able to tap into that when it's required.
Mm. And then be more at ease when it's not.
Right.
So rather
No.
than rather than killing yourself thinking, shit, I'm you know, whatever the inner chat might be, you're such a soft ass. Why
Yeah.
can't you get up and
Yeah.
take part in this social scenario, or be happy with this isn't my arena,
Yeah.
and I'm okay with that. So I'm just going to let it be and ease my way in. Right, I'm going to give myself a little bit. So again, it's back to the awareness piece.
Yeah. Yeah. Absolutely. And it is like say we're all different. Yeah. And so it's not trying to be something we're not. It's just trying to be who we are. And at
Mm,
times that's going to be really challenged. Like I say, we're probably going to have to be in situations that is really going to challenge that.
mm,
And so then it's just the understanding to say, right, if I'm going to be exposed to it, then how can I manage it or how can I tolerate it, as opposed to like being derailed by the exposure.
What would you say to what would you say to the challenge of the new person in an arena or in a setting that they would love to be and are working towards being confident
Yeah,
and they're passionate about it? So let me stop beating about the bush. Let's talk about the new coach.
yeah,
They're coming into coaching. Naturally, they're not going to be confident. And if as in they're not going to be they're not sure. They're still in that self mode.
yeah,
So they've not had the experience. They've not got they've not done the loops of feedback to say, yeah, that works okay, that works okay. So everything that stands ahead of them is relatively unknown for the new coach as they start embark on this journey. Is there an element of, as they say, fake it till you make it that could help in that scenario? Or would the best thing to do to let the let the nerves and the more natural feelings sort of show?
yeah.
What would your advice be?
Again, I think there's a combination of, but I don't think it's exclusive one or the other, is it? I think at times, like you say, we got to put the mask on and just be like, right, this isn't me. This is super uncomfortable, and I can't continue to do this. But that's probably going to get me through this next bit, right? But like
Mm,
like again, that's not a sustainable practice. We can't continue to do that day in, day in, day in. So I think again goes back to the awareness to say, right, like where like who am I? What sets me like what sets me apart? Do I understand like what contribution can I make? Because although I might not have confidence in terms of I'm not established. Like again, I'm new into this environment, so I've not got years of experience. I might have a strength or a skill that nobody else within this environment has got, right? And that can be an absolute difference maker.
Mm,
And if I apply that skill well, strategically, like I said before, like not just like that's just not me. I'm not going to do that all the time, but when it's appropriate, I'm really going to showcase that, and I can draw a great deal of confidence from that.
yeah.
And so again, I think it's understanding where my position and where I am. I think what most people do is go in and like you say, just try and be all things to everybody, right? And like again, I'm gonna try and be this and try and be that, and again, then it's just like, well, it's just inconsistent because yesterday you were this, and then today you're coming in as this. Like again, who are you? Like we don't know who you are. The likelihood is you don't really know who you are either. So, and I think also what there'll be a tendency to do is like I say to in that investigative phase, like we spoke about, is to latch on to something and then just to try and impersonate.
Mm,
Yeah. So I see the established coach that is there that I'm working with, and for sure that inspires me and motivates me, and again I feel some respect for, and I'm trying to be that person, right? But it's not that. It's just like, well, what is it about that person that resonates with me, and then how can I draw from that to to make it me? Yeah,
and just one more layer of investigation there, right? As opposed to that surface level of I want to be that. It's like
yeah,
no.
yeah,
That's a different person.
yeah,
What out of them do
yeah,
you enjoy? Yeah,
yeah.
brilliant. That whole thing was a great reframe. Um, yeah, nice. And then naturally, then through experience, the confidence is earned.
Because I know where I'm getting it from. Right?
Exactly.
Again, I'm not trying to buy it. I'm not trying to get it from somebody.
Yep.
I'm getting it from me.
Mm,
This is kind of um, loop, right? If I
yep.
understand where I'm getting it from and I'm applying it and and I'm understanding what that looks like and getting some reward, recognition, response from it. Okay, now my source of confidence has just become a little bit more robust.
Yep. Yep. And of course, how that confidence shows up for different people
Yeah,
is again should be just to use the word again. It should well, I won't use the word. It should be true to you.
yeah,
It
totally.
should be how you embody
Yeah,
confidence,
yeah.
not what's perceived as confident.
This
Um,
is what makes me my best.
yes,
Yeah,
yeah. I often tell my experience in coaching. I'm not really the shouty guy. So even when, you know, the CrossFit gyms were all singing, all dancing, and we were having, anywhere between 20 and 30 people in a class, and music was pumping and all the rest of it, I rarely shouted.
yeah,
My confidence was always I found a way to have a direct word.
yeah.
Um, and I guess that did show I didn't need to project myself. I didn't need to try and own the room or anything like that. I was happy
Yeah.
adding in these little sprinkles of coaching to each individual that was there.
And I think, like I say, if you do that, then you come away from that saying, right, again, I've been my best version. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And the people that you've delivered that to is totally resonated with. You've got
Yep.
it right. It's aligned. Like, okay, yeah, like Mass really, I mean, Mass really understands this. He really gets me. And so you just forge that relationship
Yep.
even more. Whereas if you like say if you'd have done that one day and then the next day you're just like actually now I'm going to be the shouty guy and go
Mm,
up and fist pumping and high fiving everybody, then they're just like, who the hell's this guy? Do you know what I mean?
yeah.
And again, that relationship
Yeah.
is then challenged. Yeah,
Yeah. Because we feel it, don't we?
yeah,
We intuitively sense when somebody's not aligned with their behavior.
yeah,
Um, and I think that we also have that talent or that ability um, outside of the in-person setting. I think we can also sense that through the screen. I think we can sense it online as well, right?
yeah.
Which is interesting because again, a lot of newer coaches take to online to build confidence. And what they get confidence from then is likes and thumbs up and shares and all the rest of it and
yeah,
follows all the while. And, whether they find it out or not, it's all false.
yeah,
Doesn't mean a thing.
yeah,
Because again, it's not related to your practice and what you've defined as what you should be, where you should be confident.
yeah. And again, it's probably a bit of an age thing. It's probably a bit of an experience thing. Um, but I think we should be unapologetically ourselves. I
Mm,
mean, I think we should really understand who we are and just be like, again, that's like really accepting that and saying this is who I am.
yeah.
Um, and if I put like again, if I continue to build on that and apply that in the way that I feel again, go back to the values bit, aligns to my values, then the values bit's really important on this, I think, because a lot of people will say, "Oh, I've got a value of this or I've got a value of that," and the truth, like, when have you been really tested on those values? So if I say I've got a value of integrity, right, and yeah, like that's really important to me, and then somebody contacts me and says, oh, "I've got this opportunity for this shiny thing, right, but it's going to require this and this and this from you," which is against who I am or what my principles are.
Mm.
Like, do I go with that or do I decline that opportunity and say no, I'm gonna, do you know what I mean? So often, and again, it's commonplace, isn't it? Like institutions are wallpapered with these words, and yet there's no evidence of these things in practice. Um, and so again, I think something that we can really do to ourselves is explore what is important to us and understand why that is important to us and define those things that are important to us. Integrity for me is going to mean different to what it means to you. So really putting a definition in terms of what that looks like and holding myself to account to say, right, actually, if those things are of importance, then how am I going to demonstrate those?
As a reverse engineering piece, can we flip that round to find the truth? As in, what you're showing me in your actions would tell me what's important to you.
Yeah, could be. Yeah, yeah. Again, we can probably, like, if we had a list of descriptors of values and we knew people well enough, then we could probably determine what, I think that would be a relatively consistent exercise, wouldn't it, in terms of what you think is important, what I
Yeah.
think you think is important.
Yeah, based on what you're spending your time and energy doing
Right.
on a consistent basis, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's no right or wrong on that, by the way.
No, no. No,
I mean,
no.
it's not like to say, well, I should be that because again, that's what I think the norm is or the acceptance is. If I've got a value of whatever and that's the outlier, then so be it, right? But again, embrace that difference and be like, if that's the thing that's important to me and that's direct to me,
Yeah.
then I'm absolutely going to live with it.
Yeah. But it's a reality piece. It's a truth piece, right?
Yeah,
And we try our best to teach this in the consultation scenario when you might ask the client, what in a roundabout way, what do they value in life? And a lot of clients then have never even thought about that. So the
exactly.
chance of them being accurate with that is
Why
slim.
would why would they know? Yeah,
Why would they know exactly? And perhaps the going working with a coach, employing a coach might be their first step on that self-awareness piece, which is a great thing. So we don't want to feel like we're tripping them up from the start. But then what might be a nice way to establish those things is to hold up the mirror around what they're doing day to day.
yeah,
And then if they do table some things, because you know a lot of the standard stuff that tends to come out, as you'll know in conversations with your clients in a fitness setting, like what's top priority to you, and it tends to be something around family, something around work, and something around being healthy.
yeah,
And then um, somewhere else in the conversation, you ask them to take me through their day, and none of those things feature. Right. And so then it's that reality. And of course we've got to deliver that or communicate this with care, but it's the reality that the things that you listed here are at the moment they're ideals as opposed to
yeah,
embodied priorities or values. And so if we want to move here, then we've got some work to do. And and perhaps then there's something deep inside them that knows that that's where they want to be. And then the work might be, okay, well, here's where we are based on what you're currently doing. And so how do we make steps to get there?
yeah. again, the awareness, it starts with the awareness. If like I need to spend some time understanding what those things are, because
Mm,
if I don't, then I've got no reference point.
yeah,
Yeah. So if I'm living them or not living them, then I've no idea because I don't even know what I'm trying to live in the first place,
yeah,
right? So
yeah.
yeah, I think with everything, I think if we're understanding to a level, and again, we don't need to get this absolutely ideal, but to a level, if we're understanding of anything and some of the component parts of that, then at least I've got something to be able to orientate towards when I don't feel I am there.
Mm,
So again, we talk about kind of an ideal state, an ideal performance state. If which is really difficult to articulate, by the way.
mm,
But if I like this is when I'm at my best, if I know what these things are and some of the makeup of that, then when I'm not at my best, at least I kind of got something to be able to compare it towards and
mm,
move back towards, right? But if I don't know what my best is and I don't think I am at my best, then where am I going? And ironically, I'm probably going to be go even further from where I should go. I'm probably going to
mm,
go in the other direction through that exploration because I don't know what that looks like.
mm. Is that difficult to articulate because it's more of a feeling in that
Yeah,
performative setting?
massive emotional bit, and like we
Yeah,
know, like, emotions are just very difficult to be able to piece together. So it's challenging.
because they're transient.
Yeah, yeah, and like I say, I mean, just an understanding of it. You could say how you like how you feeling. Like I say, I'm sad. Am I? Like, or is that
Mm,
just like the again the label that I put on what these sensations are? It
mm,
might not even be that, but it's just an easy kind of response or response. And over time, if I condition myself to saying, well, this equals this, then again, I'm going to continue to go with that. So yeah, I think from an emotional perspective, it's difficult. And again, from a neuroscience perspective, then we know the brain isn't good at them being able to articulate emotion, right?
mm,
So
mm.
this isn't a personal thing. This is like the same wiring that everybody's got.
Yeah.
Um, yeah,
So then I guess in that setting, then in the performance sense, there is a requirement to try and be more objective in order to find that feeling, right? So it's like, ah, shit. What, and would that look something like what led up to this? What led up to this? What were the what was the setting? What and so on and
yeah.
so forth.
What might
Yeah.
be some of the triggers? What might be some of the,
Right.
I mean, so it's an understanding of kind of context to start with,
Yeah.
and then, and this is where most people then, again, this is where it doesn't necessarily complete because people then understand the reasoning, but then don't necessarily have the understanding as to what to do to then adjust it,
Yeah.
or they don't choose to. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, I know that I'm not where I need to be, and I kind of understand why I'm not, but I don't know how to get myself back there, or I'm choosing not to get myself back there.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because the choice to get yourself back there would mean to sacrifice something else.
Potentially, yeah, could be for a number of things, couldn't it?
Yeah.
But again, like there could be something there to be like
Change
actually
is change is required.
right, right, and change is often quite difficult, quite hard
Yeah.
work. Yeah,
Yeah. Let's leave it there. I don't want to take up any more of your time. I could speak all day. I've said it with every conversation that I've had so far because I think when you do it this way and we just chat, it can go on. So we'll call it there, but we will chat again. I really enjoyed that. Um, thanks, mate.
appreciate it, Mess. Thanks, buddy.